pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll move on to introduction of board members, beginning to my far left.
Zach Middlebrooks.
Adam Danella.
Hodge Patel
Lauren Holmes.
Nick Horton.
and Billy Carmen and Zach Stafford are not here this evening. Item 4 on this evening's agenda is to approve the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda as published by the City of Milton.
Second.
Got a motion by Hodge and a second by Adam to approve tonight's agenda as published by the City of Milton. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Item 5 on our agenda is approval of past meeting minutes. For the record, we did not have a meeting in May, and therefore I'll seek a motion to approve the April 16th, 2024 meeting minutes as published by the City of Milton.
Make a motion to approve the April 16th, 2024 meeting minutes as published.
Second.
Got a motion by Adam and a second to approve the April 16th, 2024 meeting minutes as published. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 6 this evening is consideration of primary variances. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determination. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these 4 considerations. A, relief, if granted, would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance, and B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and substantial justice is done. The first primary variance this evening is V24-08, 15165 Birmingham Highway. This request is for a 4-part variance. Michael, will you please present?
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
The applicant is Gil Harris, and the property address is 15165 Birmingham Highway. The site is a 1.27 acre parcel located on the east side of Birmingham Highway and is located in the Three Oaks subdivision as shown in Exhibit A. The property is zoned AG1 and is located in the rural Milton overlay district. The lot is triangular in shape, and applicable setbacks for the lot are two 25-foot side setbacks and one 60-foot front setback. The applicant is seeking the following variances. Part 1, to reduce a 60-foot minimum front yard to 33.1 feet and reduce the 25-foot minimum side yard to 5.1 feet adjacent to the south property line for an existing one-story frame accessory structure. Part 2, to reduce the 25-foot minimum side yard to 21.6 feet adjacent to northeast property line for an existing shed accessory structure. Parts 3 and 4 are regarding an existing opaque fence, and they are to allow an existing 8-foot high opaque fence along the exterior street and southern property line to exceed the 5 feet maximum height requirement. And Part 4 is to allow an existing 8 feet high opaque fence along the exterior street and southern property line to be an opaque fence and not the required equestrian fence. Here's an area of the property. This is the 1-story frame building, which is the pool house. Here's the shed, and here's the new fence that was constructed. The lot has a depth of 299 feet and a width of 352 feet, as shown in the survey in Exhibit B. The applicant purchased the property in 2010, and the previous homeowner built the original opaque fence. The requirement of not allowing opaque fences along an exterior street was adopted by Mayor and Council in April 2014. Here is a zoom in of the site plan. Again, here is the fence in orange right here. The one-story frame / pool house and the shed accessory structure. Staff received an anonymous C-Click Fix complaint from a citizen regarding the opaque fence construction in January 2024. City staff then reached out to the applicant about next steps, and the applicant then submitted a retroactive fence permit and variance application. The shed and one-story frame were constructed after 2010 when the applicant purchased the property. The shed received an administrative minor variance, 1 foot or less, from the Community Development Director on May 15th, 2024, as shown in Exhibit C. The property owner to the south at 15125 Birmingham Highway provided a letter of support and is currently building a new single-family home on this property. The homeowner volunteered to share his proposed landscape plan with the city, as shown in Exhibit D. The landscape plan adjacent to the fence includes a mixture of southern magnolia, Japanese cedar, China fir, Arizona cypress, eastern red cedar, and green giant arborvitae. And here's the property line to get a look of Gale's triangular property, how it veers up and down like this. The adjacent neighbor map is shown in Exhibit E, detailing letters of support from 15125 and 15179 Birmingham Road, and 2 letters of opposition for variance parts 3 and 4 regarding the fence from 600 Hickory Mill Lane and 225 Hickory Flat Road. Here are the 2 support letters. And this is an email I received from Dr. Eric Bayless, who cannot make tonight's meeting, and he wanted to provide additional information regarding his tree planting plan, that he will be installing a horse board fence and the tree screening in September of 2024. Here are the 2 letters of opposition. Here's the first one. And the second letter of opposition, which we received this afternoon. Here are photos of the property. This is a view to the north, which faces Birmingham Highway, and a view to the south, showing the interior side of the fence. View to the west, which is the front yard and the private access easement, and a view to the east. Here's a front view of the home. And here's a view from the front porch facing the backyard. And you can see the large drop in grade in the backyard going upward towards the pool house. More photos of the pool house. Here are photos of the shed. Here are interior photos of the fence. And exterior photos of the fence. Google Street View only went back to 2009, and this is the farthest back I could go, but it shows that the opaque fence did exist in 2009, and the applicant purchased the property in 2010. Here's a Google Street View from July 2015, showing the existing tree screening at the time that has now been removed by the owner of 15125 Birmingham Highway. And here's another Google Street View from February 2021, showing the tree screening when it's more in the winter months. And here's a live shot, or it was a week old, for showing Birmingham Highway existing conditions, facing the back of what would be the pool house. On June 4th, the DRB met and had the following comments. DRB recommends approval of the variance request with a vote of 4 support, 2 opposed. The board began by inquiring what causes a fence to be non-compliant. Staff replied, once more than 6% of a fence is replaced, it loses legal non-conforming status. The board acknowledged that the original fence was built prior to 2010 when the applicant purchased the property did meet code at the time. The board then asked if the fence was shortened to 5 feet, would it be allowed? Staff replied, if it's still a non-compliant fence because the opaque material, even at 5 feet in height. The board then asked what the minimum height requirement for a pool fence barrier is. Staff replied, the minimum height requirement for a pool fence barrier is 4 feet. The board inquired if the proposed landscaping by the neighbor to the south at 15125 Birmingham Highway could be conditioned by the BZA if variances are approved. Staff replied, landscaping on a separate property cannot be made a condition of approval. The board inquired if the fence could be approved and conditioned to never be rebuilt again and replaced with an equestrian fence after the opaque fence rots. Staff replied that sunset conditions have been frowned upon being used in the past, but staff would review this question with the city attorney. And I confirm with Paul Fricke that that is an option, and I'll let him expand on that if that's a route you take. The board inquired what the shed and pool house were constructed. Staff replied after 2010 when the applicant purchased the property. And if the variances are approved by the BZA, staff will require retroactive building permits for both structures. The board recommended approval of all 4 parts of the variance request with the understanding the neighbor to the south will plant vegetation to mask the fence. If approved, staff recommends the following conditions. Per the survey from Keystone Land Surveying Incorporated received on May 7th, 2024 by the Community Development Department, and the shed accessory structure and 1-story frame accessory structure shall receive community development approved building permits. Any questions for staff?
Mike, I've got a couple questions, and some of these may fall to the applicant. Do we know if the homeowner association is active?
I think that'd be a good question for the applicant.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, when was the current fence installed?
January 2024.
Okay, so we received the online complaint in January, around the time it was installed?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Michael. We'll have a combined 10 minutes for the applicant to make an opening presentation, public comment from anyone wishing to speak in favor, and a closing statement from the applicant. There will also be 10 minutes for public comment in opposition. Will the applicant please come forward and present their application? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Wendy Schrader. I'm Gail Harris's daughter. I just flew in last night from Wisconsin to bring her to this meeting.
Can you please state your name and address? We have your name, just your address.
My address is S785 Sampson Valley Road, Mondovi, Wisconsin, 54755.
Thank you.
Again, I'm speaking on behalf of my mother. She's 74 years old. She just came back to Milton from taking care of her mother and brother that passed away last year. When we got back in October, the fence was falling apart. And for safety reasons, she hurried up and tried to get it fixed as soon as possible. That was the soonest they could put her on the schedule. not knowing that we were breaking any kind of rules because it was a fence that was there and it was falling down and rotting. So she was just trying to make it safe because she has the pool in the backyard. So that's how the whole fence came about. As far as the buildings, they've been there since the latest is the pool house, which is I think 2011. She was building the pool, and I tell you, the town had been out several times because our neighbor across the street at the time would call the town on us every other week. So the town was out, observed everything that was going on. There was a young lady that came out. She took pictures of everything and didn't say anything about having to go get a approval of anything else. The pool permit was approved and everything at the time. And as far as the shed, as soon as she moved in 2010, a couple months later, she had installed that. At the time she was looking, she thought she was doing the right thing because she checked the height and width and all that. And back then she was saying that it was acceptable. She didn't get the permit because we didn't realize it. The way they're positioned on the property is because the property is just hills. So those were the only flat surfaces for those buildings. I don't know what else to say. I just, this has all come on us in the last couple months. And I mean, we want to make it right, of course, but the stuff has been up there since 2010, 2011. And the fence coordinates changed, I guess, in 2014, which again, she thought she was just replacing something that she had already had there, trying to make it safe so the pool wasn't open to the public. That's basically what it was.
A question for you. Do you know if the homeowner association is active?
There is not a homeowners association.
There is not. Okay. So a request for approval from the HOA wasn't performed since there wasn't an active HOA. Okay.
Who built the pool house?
Long ago. Who built the pool house?
It was a contractor, though.
I'm sorry?
It was a contractor.
Correct.
Adam, do you have any other questions?
It's more for Michael, but
More for Michael. Okay.
yeah.
Other questions for the applicant? Thanks. I appreciate it. If you'd like, you can have a seat. Michael, do we have anyone else wishing to speak in support?
Oh, we have several
Okay.
support and opposition. Do we want to start with support?
Let's start with, what's the count for both support and for opposition?
2 opposed, and we have 3. 3. Okay. Excuse me, 3 opposition and 2 support.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would go with those in support first per the
Yeah,
procedure.
I was just checking on time overall to see if we needed to add additional time. Let me see. We got a, we can go ahead and bring the individuals that want to speak in support up.
To your phone. One second, we're going to start the timer. Mr. Jerry Jescombe?
We did. I got it.
You did?
2 minutes or so.
I did.
Paul, I'm tracking time.
Yeah.
I'm Jerry Jaska. My wife and I live next door to Gail. We bought our house in 2006,
Can you let us know what your address is, please?
15175 Birmingham Highway.
Thank you.
We don't have a homeowners association because there are just 3 houses. So we never formed a one. So we moved in first. Of course, met Gail when she moved in. And then there was an owner of the 3rd house. Right now, no one is living in the 3rd house. It is changing ownership as we speak. We always talk to each other. It was a tight-knit little 3-house community. So whenever anyone wanted to make an addition, another neighbor added a pool, we just talked and agreed. Another neighbor added a batting cage. That was agreed. So I'm in support of the variances for Gale because, in my opinion, all of this predated. Matter of fact, we moved in 2006 when Milton didn't exist. So we have no issue whatsoever with her pool house, that structure, the fence. So I'm in support of the variances for Gale.
Thank you.
Scott Reese.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese, 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia. Dr. Bayless, who owns the property to the south, our firm performed all of the site plans for his property, the house that's under construction there now. He is unable to attend tonight. He's a chiropractor and has scheduled patients. And he asked that I would speak on his behalf. It is absolutely his intent to buffer or shelter the fence from the view up highway, or up Birmingham Highway. And the legality I would not know, but if you're so inclined that you're worried about shielding this fence, if it would be possible to condition that within a certain period of time, if the shielding is not in place, then that the fence would have to be removed. To me, the fence was there. She could have replaced 50% of it and then waited a while back or a while longer and replaced another 50%, and we wouldn't be here on that particular issue. So I really hate that she would have to tear this fence down kind of on an oversight when the person that would be most affected is in support and will buffer the fence. I do fully understand it's in a very visible site there, and I hate the location, but it was there prior to, it was shielded, and Dr. Bayless has agreed and even presented a plan that he will do that. There's nothing that I can do or you can do, I guess, to force him to live up to his plan, but I would hope that there would be, that we could take him at his word, and if not, that within a period of time, that if it wasn't in, then maybe the fence come down there. There's no way we can plant the trees in this time of year. We've got to wait till the fall to have a chance to give the trees a chance to live. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's opposition now.
Okay.
Miss Mary Crunk.
Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Mary Cronk, and I live at 600 Hickory Mill Lane. Thank you so much. I'm opposed to parts 3 and 4 of the variance request and ask that you deny them. The BZA's criteria for determining whether a variance can be granted are the 4 considerations that Mr. Patel read. Therefore, it makes sense that any variance that is granted would meet the majority of those considerations. As you're familiar with the considerations, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to read all of them word for word, but will state why the considerations have not been met. Consideration A, relief, if granted, would indeed offend the spirit and intent of the ordinance, since the intent of section 2.3.2.e and 2.3.2.e.1.b is to prevent a fence from blocking the view shed. This 8-foot-high opaque fence is 3 feet higher than allowed. It is solid rather than equestrian in design. It totally blocks the view shed, and it's not in keeping with the look and feel of rural Milton. Therefore, consideration 1 has not been met. Consideration A. Consideration B. There's nothing extraordinary or exceptional about this property that necessitates a privacy fence. In explaining why she has extraordinary or exceptional situation, the applicant said in her letter of appeal to the BZA that her backyard and the interior of her home would be exposed to Birmingham Highway and the Bayless property if she did not have this 8-foot-high opaque fence in place. If you drive down Freemanville Road, you will see numerous homes whose yards are situated such that someone driving by can see the entire back and sometimes the side yards, their pools, and even into their homes at night. Our ordinances prevent these homeowners from putting up privacy fences because their yards, like the applicants, are also adjacent to an exterior street. Having a backyard that is visible to others does not qualify as an extraordinary or exceptional situation because in Milton, it is not exceptional or extraordinary. Therefore, consideration 2 has not been met. Or consideration B. Consideration C, relief if granted would cause a substantial detriment to the public good. The public who drive north on Birmingham Highway past this property have a right to expect that ordinances designed to protect and promote our rural viewshed are upheld. This 8-foot-high opaque fence is detrimental to the public good and well-being, as it can be seen from about a quarter mile away, starting at Wood Road. Therefore, consideration 3 has not been met. In addition to these considerations, there's another ordinance that supports denial of parts 3 and 4. Section 2.2.2.e.2 states, destruction by any means of more than 60% of gross square footage of a structure requires that the structure be reconstructed in conformity with the provisions of the UDC. And in this case, because more than 60% of the fence needed to be repaired, regardless of whatever type of fence had been there originally, the new fence would have to be a 5-foot or shorter equestrian fence to comply with the ordinance. Because this request does not meet the 4 considerations for granting a variance, and the 8-foot-high opaque fence also violates section 2.2.2.e.2, the BZA should deny parts 3 and 4 of the variance request. Thank you for your time and careful consideration of this variance request.
Thank you.
Julie Zonner Bailey.
Good evening. My name is Julie Zonner Bailey, and I reside at 255 Hickory Flat Road, Milton, Georgia. I'm here this evening in opposition to 2 of the 4 variances requested for 15165 Birmingham Highway, Milton, Georgia. I request denial of V2408 Part 3 and Part 4. Part 3, to allow an existing 8-foot-high opaque fence along the exterior and southern property to exceed the 5-foot maximum height requirement. Part 4, to allow an existing 8-foot-high opaque fence along the exterior and southern property to be an opaque fence and not the required equestrian fence. These variance requests are in direct opposition to the legally adopted Code of Ordinances of the City of Milton. Importantly, they also do not meet any of the reasons set forth in the Board of Zoning Appeals legally adopted language for a primary variance. As such, these variances must be denied. The City of Milton Code of Ordinances is quite clear as depicted by the express language of section 2.3.2e and 2.3.2e1b. The fencing that was illegally installed with no permit is in direct violation of the following City of Milton ordinance as found within the Unified Development Code, UDC, of the City of Milton. Section 232, Height and style fences and walls must not exceed 5 feet from finished grade along exterior streets. Fencing along exterior streets of non-subdivision lots and exterior streets of platted subdivisions must comply with the following. Fencing must be an equestrian fence, must be. Opaque fences are prohibited, prohibited. There is no gray area here. Opaque fences are prohibited, period. 8 feet high fences are prohibited, period. They're not allowed in the city of Milton. The Board of Zoning Appeals, in considering a primary variance request, must consider and judiciously apply the 4 tenets that drive whether a primary variance can be approved or denied. The oath each of you took as members of the Board of Zoning Appeals requires that you uphold the tenets of the Board of Zoning Appeals and the express reasons for consideration of a primary variance. As you know, and as was read into the record before this meeting began, and you have been trained regarding these 4 reasons. I won't reiterate them, but they're really, really critical. This is a quasi-judicial board. Those 4 tenets are part of the legally adopted language as to why the Board of Zoning Appeals exists and how you consider primary variances. These variances do not meet any of the above noted requirements for a variance approval. There is no hardship of any kind. These variances should be denied. The fact someone did not seek a permit when one is required is not a reason to approve a variance. It is not a hardship. These variances should be denied. The fact someone spent money to install an illegal, non-permitted, and prohibited fence along Birmingham Highway for all to see when it's clearly prohibited is not a hardship. And I would like to ask that the photograph earlier be reconstituted and put back on the screen, please. It can be seen from 0.7 miles away. It is not hidden. It is not out of sight. It is in clear view of each and every person that drives by Birmingham Highway from almost a mile away. The fact is, there are no extraordinary or exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to this piece of property based on size, shape, or topography. These variances should be denied. The public safety, health, and welfare would not be upheld if anything other than a denial of the variances takes place, as a fence of this height, type, and length is prohibited and negatively impacts the rural viewshed of the city of Milton, a rural viewshed that citizens expect to be maintained and upheld. The city of Milton has legally adopted ordinances in place to ensure a consistent look and feel to the city of Milton and to protect the rural viewshed throughout Milton, and especially in this more rural area of the city of Milton. Fence type and height requirements are explicitly called out in the city of Milton UDC for a reason, and they must be upheld. These ordinances in large part are what has helped ensure the city of Milton remains a place of beauty with consistent application of the laws of Milton, resulting in increased property values enjoyed by all. Milton is ruled by design and must remain as such by upholding our code of ordinances and denying variances that do not present legal hardship. Such is the case here. There is no hardship, and these variances must be denied. Whether you live next door, nearby, or further away from this property, this illegally non-permitted 8-foot opaque fence is visible from every person who drives by the property. It's in direct conflict with the existing ordinances and the expectations of the citizens of Milton to expect a consistent rural viewshed. You look at that picture and you see it loud and clear, and it's in direct violation of our rural viewshed and our ordinances. As noted, this 8-foot high opaque fence is visible from 0.7 miles. As you pass Wood Road, this is all you see for almost a mile.
We've got a minute and a half left, and we get one other speaker.
It's completely out of character with the expectations of Milton. Furthermore, if this variance were to be approved with none of the reasons for hardship, it would set a very negative legal precedent for other similar requests where those to be an 8-foot high opaque fence or some other variance. As stated, no hardship exists, and these variances must be denied. Additionally, section 2.2.2, destruction by any means of more than 60% of gross square footage of a structure requires that the structure be reconstituted in conformity with the provisions of the UDC. This was not the case here. There is no hardship. It should be denied. Any structure, when moved or changed, must conform. This variance must be denied. Similarly, the contractors that did the work here, they were fully aware that permits were required. The adjacent landowner who clear-cut this land and agreed with the neighbor to put up this fence was fully aware that permits were required. That's not an excuse. It's not a hardship. We cannot condition legally this fence. What you have to presume is this fence is what we will live with from this point forward if you do anything other than to deny. Thank you for your service. Thank you for attending to the rules and requirements of the BZA. And I politely and respectfully request that you adhere to those and deny these variances. Thank you.
20 seconds left. A public comment.
Yes. We have one more person wishing to speak, is that right?
Sarah Moen. So you can either call her up for 20 seconds or make a motion to extend.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Sarah Moen, 130 Providence Plantation Drive. I'm opposed to parts 3 and 4 of the variance request because they do not meet the 4 considerations necessary for a variance to be granted. 20 seconds.
Thank you. The applicant has 3 minutes and 54 seconds remaining. If you'd like to come up and make any closing statements, you're welcome to do so. And if you could address any of the comments that were raised from those in opposition, that would be helpful in this board's decision as well.
I understand what they're saying. And as far as hardship, my mother's 74 years old, can barely walk. She had a fence there originally. She didn't think she was breaking any rules because it's the same size fence she had, but nobody could have seen it when it was up because we did have trees across the whole thing. So as far as permit wise, she's, as I said, she's 74. She thought she was just replacing a fence that was already listed on her land plot, that it was there. And she thought she was doing the right thing. And again, she's 74 years old. She was afraid that somebody was going to get back there. She just hurried up and did it. She just got back from losing her mother and her brother all in 2 weeks. So, I mean, I understand the rules. There are rules. But all those things were put in before all these rules were put in place in 2014. And again, she thought she was just replacing what she had, which was already on her land plot. And that's basically all I can say.
Thank you. Any additional questions for staff or for the attorney?
Close public comment before or after? I forget.
Close it after that.
Okay.
Public comment's already closed,
Okay.
but we can ask staff questions.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Michael, what's the deal with the pool and the building and the permitting of that? It sounded like you said there were people out there from the city looking at it, make sure everything was okay. Do you have some background on what happened?
I do not. I inquired but didn't find anything. But the pool was permitted in 2010. That's all I can speak to.
Did you see, I mean, you didn't see any drawings or anything like that? Or I guess
I
is what
pulled
you're
the permit, the pool permit, yes. And there wasn't anything out of the ordinary, in my opinion.
There was obviously no pool house then on that.
Correct. There was no pool house, no shed. Yes, that is correct. Mhm.
Paul, I've got a question for you. One of the things that Mr. Reese raised during his conversation was, let's say this, the landscaping that's screening that does not happen within a certain time period. Could we then say if it's approved, that it would be pulled back? Basically, the variance would no longer exist after a certain date?
Yeah, I really tend to advise against putting in such sunset provisions whereby a future action would result in a revocation of the variance without any sort of public hearing process to go forward. I'm not convinced that it would comply with the zoning procedures law. If it were, just kind of the fence is still there and a condition subsequent to this hearing were to occur, there's a couple of reasons. As I mentioned, the zoning procedures law, but also for record keeping, it would be difficult for someone to go out and look at the city's records and determine if the situation, if the variance was still valid or not, because it wouldn't necessarily know if the condition had occurred or not. So I would advise against it.
It almost be like that's what you were thinking.
Michael, I have a couple of questions. The first one is that if the owner would have known that she could have replaced 50%, then come back later and replace the other 50%. Would she have needed a permit at that time to replace it, or repair the
Repairs.
fence?
Let me first start by saying I'm not convinced that a sequence of 50% repairs would necessarily comply with the requirements. I think we would have to look at the specific situation to see if.
But we don't know how much in disrepair it was. It could have been that it was just several boards, and instead of replacing the boards, she felt that it was maybe an eyesore or something and decided to put up a new fence. And the other question I have is the doctor who lives next door, when I drove by, pretty much has the exact original fence on the other side of his property, running the entire length of the property. So originally there were two sides, even though that may have been her fence, the owner on the other side still has his fence up that would have matched, because it's in a little bit more, maybe little disrepair and weathered, and it's still there. So, I mean, I understand where everyone is coming from, but this is not like new construction where we're not allowing it and they should have known better. This is, to me, a different,
Lauren, do you
just a
have a
different
direct
story.
question to staff or to the attorney?
Yeah, no, I asked the
Yeah,
questions I was looking at about the permit.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a clarity, it's 60%. That's when the legal nonconforming status is lost. My opinion, repairs would not require a fence permit if it met the 60% rule. And I'll defer to Paul what that would entail, but we'd have to have a discussion on what that meant. I was not aware that the property to the south had an opaque fence, but yes, that is a non-allowed fence material if he does have an opaque fence like the one on the other side, the one seeking a variance today.
But it's probably been there as long as, it looks like it's a very old fence and that it was original, like
Grandfathered in.
grandfathered in. Yes, thank you.
Michael, what size is the fence that's out there, the new fence?
8 feet in height.
Do you know what size the old fence was?
I do not. I could defer that to the applicant, but yeah, I could go with what it's out there currently.
Okay.
Any additional questions before I close the public portion? I'll close the public portion and open the floor for a motion in a second. Before we get into that, there are 4 parts to this application. So let's make sure we're referencing if we're going to do part of them or if we're going to do all of them.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve parts 1 and parts 2 of V24-08. I'm going to address this first. I don't really need to read the whole thing, but basically
So let's
it's,
put any conditions on that.
yeah, I just want to, sure. No.
Conditions that they had.
Yeah.
Recommendations on.
And we were going to put it as per the site plan received May 7th, 2024 by the City of Milton Community Development Department by Keystone Land Surveying, Inc. And that the shed and accessory structure and 1-story frame, the shed accessory structure and 1-story frame accessory structure received community development approved building permits. That's the motion.
Okay. I will second that, but have a clarification point because we're referring to the site plan, and I believe the fence is on the site plan.
Well, I know, but we're just talking about the two structures.
If you'd like to clarify that that condition refers to the location of the shed and or the two structures that are getting the variance.
Okay. So in regards to the conditions, I'll repeat the conditions as the location of the one-story frame accessory structure and the shed accessory structure pursuant to the Keystone Land survey received May 7th, 2024 at the City of Milton Community Development Department. And that the permit, that each of those structures be receive community development approved building permits.
Start the discussion since you made the motion.
Yeah. You second as repeated.
Yeah, I second.
Okay. So under the circumstances, as far as these two structures, I don't think the relief, if granted, would offend the spirit or intent of the ordinances. I think there is a hardship with the property under the circumstances. The shape and topography lend these buildings to be built where they are. That's evident by the pictures. The relief, if granted, would not cause substantial detriment to the public good or surrounding properties. And the public safety, health, and welfare is secured and substantial justice is done. I mean, we have some evidence that somebody from the city was called. There was people that came out, looked at it, potentially approved it. But that being said, hardly visible from the street. There was screening. There potentially may be more screening, but they have screening in their yard, which will screen these buildings and sheds as they grow. I think they're fine where they are, and I think that's the only place they could have been put. So I don't see any issues with a variance for those two accessory structures.
To add on to what Adam said, going through our conditions and considerations for granting variances, as it relates to the two accessory structures, I think I can find a situation for each of those conditions. However, if we're looking at the fence aspect of it, I'm struggling with the fence aspect of it because we did have an ordinance change in 2014.
Well, as far as that goes, we still have to deal with that
We're
separately.
dealing with that separately. Okay.
It's just part 1 and 2.
Okay.
You can go
So
for-
you're
do you have any
recommending approval
comments?
for those two, but you're going to
The
come
first
back.
two.
Okay.
First two.
I'm
Just
fine
the
with
first
that.
two.
Yeah. So let's vote on that.
Any other further discussion on that?
No, I'm in agreement with
Okay.
part 1 and part 2, section 3.1.4 and 3.1.4B.
So I will call for a vote on B 24-08-15165 Birmingham Highway. And this vote is just pertaining to part 1 and part 2 of the variance request. Try to go. Will be per the well, there's two conditions on here. Per the survey from Keystone Land Surveying, Inc., received on May 7th by the Community Development Department, that's showing the location of the accessory structure and the one-story accessory structure. The second condition is that the shed accessory structure and one-story frame accessory structure shall receive community development approved building permits. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously for parts 1 and 2. I will open the floor up for a motion on either part 3 and part 4 combined or individual, however you guys want to handle that.
I'm going to make a motion to deny parts 3 and 4.
I disagree with that.
I will second the motion on parts 3 and 4.
So from a discussion standpoint, you know, it appears that from the pictures that we have, we've got a maybe 5-foot fence, an original fence with 50% opaque top. It's a little bit higher than what's allowed in the crabapple overlay. This is a different overlay, and in rural Milton, you're not allowed to have those. This new fence is at least 2 foot higher. You can see the roof line of how much it covers the roof of the pool house versus the prior fence, which did not reach the roof of the pool house. So it's higher and new. That being said, despite it does not meet the 4 criteria, and you have to meet all of them. I don't see that there is a hardship under the circumstances. If we're going by the 4 criteria, it just doesn't meet the hardship criteria. It also does offend the spirit and intent of the ordinance. From that perspective, the city of Milton, what city council promulgates and, puts forth in the rules is what the city wants to see. And unfortunately, we don't have that here. If this was a situation, happens in my neighborhood all the time. I live right here. We deal with this fence issue on a regular basis. Original fences are all 6-foot privacy fences. I have one on one side of my property. I have a horse fence on the other side where these people have built a pool and all the stuff, but they're not allowed to have that fence because the rules changed. The people that do have the privacy fences maintain them. I wouldn't use the word repair or replace. They call it maintenance, and that's how they get away with keeping them. And this is something that not just people in this area, but these fence rules and the different overlays, they have to be followed. We're looking at a fence personally. The contractors brought forth the point, both of them, that we have to have a permit. I didn't say anything about it other than, hey, we want a fence. And this is kind of what we're looking at because we know we have to have this type of fence or at least this height. So I just don't see how this meets the 4 criteria, and you've got to meet all of them. And to me, that becomes an issue. We can't make someone else put screening up. If the fence was built for screening, they have trees, as evidenced in the pictures, along the inside of the fence that screens the pool house, and home. We can't force the other person to put the screening up, like I said, and the hesitation I would even have to trusting somebody to do that is that we have granted variances very recently for properties that we use site plans to grant the variances based on what they said they were going to do, and those properties are now being flipped and sold with the variance. So to potentially build something different or modify in some way. So that's my opinion on it, and that's why I would say no under the circumstances, mainly because it just doesn't meet at the very least the hardship requirements.
With parts 3 and 4 and applying relief if granted would not offend the spirit and intent of the ordinance, because we updated the ordinance in 2014, it was intentional when it was updated to protect the rural view shed. Certainly screening and so forth could be added, but there's nothing we can do to control that with this application here. That's all an adjacent property owner, and there's no way for us to connect the two. That's the one I struggled with. I don't think the other one is, I don't think there's a hardship. Certainly the applicant raised a financial hardship, but that's not one of our conditions that we would take into consideration based on our requirements. And then the other thing I look at is that are we really doing substantial justice if we were to approve it? I don't see where that applies.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree with pretty much everything you guys said. I feel that this is a replacement fence. She just went about it the wrong way because it could have been, we don't know what kind of disrepair it was in. Is it something that could have been fixed with just a few boards? She just went ahead and made it look presentable. It's my understanding that she's planning on staining the fence a darker color. Yes, he may or may not add the buffer that's there. He took the buffer down to begin with. So that's not her fault that he took the buffer down to begin with. And we seem to be holding that against her. And the fact that he has, I'm pretty sure I drove by there an hour ago, that he has the same fence on the other side of his property. Granted, it may only be 5 feet tall, but it's very weathered, but it's not in disrepair. And it probably was put up about the same time. And I understand where everyone's coming from, but I still look at this as a replacement. And if it was new construction or a brand new fence that where there wasn't one there before, I would agree with you because they should have known better, but this is a replacement.
But even if it's a replacement, it's more than what we said, a 60%, and at which point
But
it would still have to be permitted.
You're right, but I'm giving the reason that what I feel, I mean, we did not hear what she said, but we don't know what kind of disrepair. It could have easily been just a few boards that were replaced. We don't know that. And we're just assuming that she had to replace the whole thing. She did it because she wanted it to look nice in Milton for the replacement.
So walk me through the considerations on how you think it applies where it should be supported.
Well, that's the only reason, that's the only thing I can. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I understand the, all the, what we're supposed to be going by, but I just feel on this particular one that it is a replacement. It is a hardship just because she really felt like she was doing a better thing instead of just fixing a few boards that we know or could know. So I just, the same fence is on the other side of the doctor's property. So it's not like, it seems systematically that I live on land. It's different than living in a subdivision. I get what you're saying. But when you live on open land, there's chain link fence still out there. And I'm sure if there are chain link fence out there, I passed it on the way here, that it's still allowed because it was probably put up 40 years ago. We're not going to just show up and tell people they have to start taking things down. And that's kind of what I feel like, because this is a replacement, not new construction. If it was, then we wouldn't be allowing it.
Question, if it's requested to be removed or taken down, what's the estimated time frame on that? And would it then fall within the same realm of by the time she takes it down, Dr. Bayless has already put up his screening? And then does this make this all a moot point? Because he's starting in September of when that screening is supposed to occur to July. You're telling me in 2 months, somebody's going to come out there, rip out all that fencing, take it all down, get the price quote to do it all, remove said fencing. By the time it's done, then the screening's already up, or potentially you don't see it anyway.
It depends on how quickly code enforcement gets out there. They give them 30 days.
Okay.
So I don't know how quickly they would address something like that, but once they're out there, it's a 30-day thing. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's right, Michael.
We typically do a 30-day period for code enforcement, and then any farther extension would be the ComDev director.
You know, unfortunately, this is a unfortunate circumstance in my opinion, because it's unfortunate that it just so happened at the time of which your repair was going on is the time that Dr. Bayless just happened to be clearing his land in order to put his home. And unfortunately, this does not meet within the compliances or granting of relief, in my opinion. The spirit of intent, while well measured in what you were trying to do, and I understand the plight and situation that was going on, both personally and externally going on. I have a 76-year-old mother who lives with me full-time as well. And I know your intent was well, meant to be of the highest of character, if you will, of trying to put in a fence that was just going to be aesthetically appeasing, and not realizing that you were out of ordinance. However, this, in my opinion, doesn't grant such exceptional situations or conditions that meet the criteria and strict applications that are now being put forth by our ordinances that are currently in state today. So that's just my opinion. It's
Well said.
unfortunate, and if there's any suggestion, if I'm allowed to say this, which would be, hopefully you can repurpose what some of the fencing is there, of how you do the modification potentially of that, and using some of the pre-existing boards in order to be able to make the height requirements of 60 inches or 5 feet, and be able to repurpose the wood already in existence and posts of just basically cutting that off to alleviate some of the potential financial burden that will come with that. But unfortunately, in my opinion, this time it doesn't meet the criteria.
Any other comments?
Add to that.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the table for V 2408-15165 Birmingham Highways, Parts 3 and 4. Motion was by Adam, second by Hodge, to deny both of those deny both of those requests. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 4 to 1, excuse me. The next item on our agenda this evening is V 24-09-1105 Birmingham Road. This is a two-part request. Michael, will you please present?
The applicant is Luco Jean Turco. The property address is 1105 Birmingham Road. The site is a 24.6 acre parcel located on the south side of Birmingham Road. The property is zone AG1, is located in the rural Milton overlay district. Applicable setbacks for lot are a 60-foot front, 2 25-foot sides, and a 50-foot rear. Here's the aerial of the property. The applicant is seeking the following variances: to reduce the existing barn housing animals distance requirement from 100 feet to 39.09 feet adjacent to the east property line. Follow my cursor. Here is the existing barn. And to allow an existing accessory structure shed to remain in front of the proposed single-family home adjacent to the east property line, located about 30 feet in front of the barn. The lot has a depth of 1,431 feet and a width of 509 feet, as shown in the survey in Exhibit A. Applicable setbacks for the lot are a 60-foot front, 2 25-foot sides, and 50-foot rear. Here is the barn proposed to house animals, shown at 32.09 feet from the side property line, and the shed, which meets setbacks, which will be located, the existing proposed single-family home will be located in behind the accessory structure. That's why part 2 is being requested. Per the applicant's letter of appeal, the barn and shed predated the incorporation of the city, and the property has been an active horse farm for over 40 years. The subdivision is located to the east, which is the Killian, here the aerial will show better, the Killian Manor was platted in 2015. So the barn and everything on the property predated the subdivision to the east. The applicant plans to demolish the primary single-family home and barn right here, follow my cursor. This barn is proposed to be demolished and build a new single-family home. The shed to remain is a horse-run shed. Here are photos of the property. Here's the view to the north and south, showing the pasture land. View to the west and east. View of the house to be demolished. View of the barn to be demolished. View of the barn to remain and seeking the variance. And here's a view of the horse-run shed. These are mini ponies. And here are more photos of the pasture land. And this photo shows the screening towards the Killian Manor subdivision. Any questions for staff?
No. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Good piece of property.
We'll have a combined 10 minutes for the applicant to make an opening presentation. Public comment from anyone wishing to speak in favor, and a closing statement from the applicant. There will also be 10 minutes for public comment in opposition. The applicant come forward at this time. Please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese with Rumlow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. Here tonight representing the Gianturco family in their application for a variance to allow an existing stable to remain on this 24-acre part of their larger family estate. As I'm sure you're aware, these older structures are considered existing non-compliant. Everything is perfect in the world. Nothing is going wrong until you want to do something different with your property. Luca's oldest daughter wants to remain in the area to continue to run this horse farm portion. She has a young family. She wants a new house. So she called me. I go out and I can't build her a new house until I bring everything into compliance. The only way for compliance is either demolish or be granted a variance. We're going to remove certain structures they want to remain. The stable has been there for approximately 40 years. It was in existence when the Gianturcos purchased the property. That made the assumption that everything was permitted and compliant. The rules now are different than they were then. To be able to build a new house, we need a variance to allow this stable, and we're not 100% certain on the exact location of the new house. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I get a variance, then I can allow that structure to remain. I don't have to come back and apply for a variance on the little run-in shed. So that's the two parts. All the surrounding properties have changed hands, or new construction has happened after the fact of this horse farm being in existence. There is extreme pressure on large homeowners or large property owners in the city now to sell and subdivide. I hope we can see a way forward to allow these existing horse farms to exist with their pre-existing structures. I will be glad to answer any questions and provide a closing statement. Thank you.
Couple questions for you. One is, how many horse stalls are on the property right now, or will remain if it's
well,
approved?
There are 6 in existence in this structure, and there are 4 in the structure we're going to remove.
Okay.
But they're not all occupied, but
Okay.
there's spaces there.
And the total area of this is 24.617
That's
acres.
24 acres of a total of a 100-acre estate. Both
Beautiful.
sides of the road as you go up Birmingham Highway, part of the Scottsdale Farms Nursery.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
So with the proposed new home, are you needing any, you think there's going to be
No,
any
no, no,
variances for
no.
that? Okay.
No,
Okay.
this is it. So the UDC requires that, no accessory structure can be located in front of the primary. We've got a little pony run-in shelter to get out of extreme heat or extreme cold that may possibly be located in front of the new structure. Until the existing residence is taken down, I can't, the future homeowner or builder, I can't lock in her exact location because it's going to look different when I remove that existing house. So that's the second part of the variance, or maybe the first. I need a variance for an accessory structure that may possibly be located in front of the primary, and a structure housing animals that is closer than 100 feet to a property line. All these structures have been in existence, and the reason I'm here is when to build the new house, I have to bring everything into compliance. I hope I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that made sense.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Reese. Michael, do we have anyone wishing to speak in support?
No public comment.
No public comment on either side?
Correct. Yes.
Mr. Reese, if you'd like to make any closing statements, you're welcome to do so.
Just once again, that it's critical that we do everything we can to preserve the existing horse farms and the large tracts of land if we want to maintain a semblance of rural heritage, or what I think most of us want Milton to be and what it once was. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for staff before I close the public portion? Public portion is now closed, and I'll open the floor for a motion and a second on V 2409-1105 Birmingham Road.
I make a motion, we approve V 2409, parts 1 and 2. With the conditions from staff, per the survey by Brumbelow Reese and Associates received May 2nd, 2024. For the location of the structures.
Second. You want it? We've got a motion and a second on V 2409-1105 Birmingham Road to approve both parts with the condition of the survey from Brumbelow Reese and Associates received on May 2nd, 2024 by the Community Development Department. What was the last piece that you said?
Just showing the structures in question.
Of the accessory structure.
Showing the location of the accessory structures.
Or remaining barn.
Let's open it up for discussion.
Good. I don't have any discussion.
I think it meets all four criteria. It's been here, wouldn't offend the spirit, intent, and the ordinance. I think the exceptional situation here is that the neighboring property was built, developed, and with all this in place, and that these properties, obviously nothing's come of it so far, and I don't think anything will in the future, but they're very, all the homeowners are very well aware of what's in their backyards and have purchased those homes with that. And it would not cause any substantial detriment to the public good under the same rationale and circumstances. And then the public safety, health, welfare, secured substantial justice is done by, maintaining the rural farms in Milton and the area for the horses to live and be safe.
Yeah, I think it meets all four criteria in a very clear way. It's a large tract, it's an equestrian property, and their intent is to maintain it that way. Any other
Agreed.
comments? Okay,
Couldn't agree more.
call for a vote on V 24-09-1105 Birmingham Road on both parts. With the motion was by Zach and a second by Nick, with one condition. Per the survey from Brumbelow Reese and Associates received on May 2nd, 2024 by the Community Development Department, showing the structures that are remaining and the structure that's going to be removed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. The third variance this evening is V 24-102390 Bethany Bend. There's a deferral request to the August 20th, 2024 meeting. Michael, will you please give us an update?
Yes, for speaking to the Yes, I spoke to the applicant. He is going to be out of the country until August. Instead of just requesting deferral to the next month, he's just going to request to August.
So make a motion to defer
His request is, to the August BZA meeting.
to the August meeting or after the August meeting?
August,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so I'll make a motion to defer V 24-102390 Bethany Bend to the August calendar.
Second.
Got a motion by Adam, a second by Zach to defer B 24-102390 Bethany Bend with 5 parts until the August 20th, 2024 meeting. Any discussion?
I think it would be unfair to deny the variance because he can't make it.
Yeah. My understanding is he has everything lined up to attend that meeting. So it isn't that we're waiting on any additional documentation, so we should be ready to go with that meeting.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. The fourth primary variance this evening is V 24-1135 Fox Hollow Run. And this has 1 part. Michael, would you please present?
Real quick, I want to make a clarifying comment.
Sure.
Let's see. Under the owner, I spelled Craig wrong. IAG, it is CRAIG. I want to correct that for the record for the variance approval that the name is now spelled correctly in the presentation. The applicant is Craig and Christy Melrose. The property address is 835 Fox Hollow Run. The site is a 1.35 acre parcel located on the south side of Fox Hollow Run and is located in the Greystone Farm subdivision as shown in Exhibit A. The property is zoned CUP, Community Unit Plan, and is located in the Rural Milton Overlay District. Applicable setbacks for a lot are a 60-foot front, 2 25-foot sides, and 3 50-foot rear setbacks. The applicant is seeking the following variances: to reduce the 25-foot minimum side yard to 23 feet adjacent to the east property line, and reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 41.8 feet adjacent to the south property line for an existing accessory structure. Here's the aerial map, and this is the existing accessory structure / pool house that was constructed in 2015. The lot has a depth of 283 feet and a width of 146 feet, as shown in the survey in Exhibit B. The applicant received community development approved building permit for the pool house accessory structure in 2015, as shown in Exhibit C. This is the zoom in showing the pool house, showing the distance across the side setback, which is 23 feet, when it's required to be 25 feet, and 41.8 feet when the rear setback is 50 feet. And I said 50-foot rear setbacks earlier, and that's correct. You follow my cursor. It's a uniquely shaped lot, so they had 3 rear setbacks, which is not normal. Here is the The applicant received a community development approved building permit for the pool house accessory structure in 2015, as shown in Exhibit C. The pool house accessory structure met setback requirements on the building permit site plan. The applicant is currently going through the process of selling their home, and as-built survey was completed in May 2024, which reviewed the non-compliant pool house accessory structure encroaching into both the side and rear yard setback requirements. The as-built survey also revealed the existing property exceeded the 25% lot coverage requirement at 25.5%. The applicant then removed a 376 concrete pad to get below the 25% lot coverage requirement, and the area is now sodded. The as-built survey, as shown here, was updated to reflect the 24.87 total lot coverage. And if you follow my cursor, this is where the pad was located originally. The adjacent neighbor support map is shown in Exhibit D. Letters of support showing 825 Fox Hollow Run supports the variance request. Here's a letter of support. View to the north, across the street, and view to the south. View to the west and east, and the pool accessory structure is on the east side. You can see some of the screening in the photos. This is from the MLS website that showed a nice drone shot showing the existing screening along the eastern property line. And here are views of the existing pool house. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, how'd this happen?
That's a great question. We now require a foundation survey for anything within, it's our discretion, but close to a setback line. Now requires a foundation survey. So if that was permitted today, it would not happen because we would require a foundation survey prior to going vertical.
So Michael, if a application came to us for a variance, that's one of the conditions you would now put on as a recommendation for us, is to require a foundation survey.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes. But I'll answer as of why, I'll let the applicant explain that.
And so all this was built, I mean, I was trying to double check. Basically, the way I read it, all this is built at one go, the whole thing. House, pool, this portion, or was it two different?
I believe whoever built the house built the pool house, but I'll let the applicant clarify that.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff or Michael? Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Did I show you the picture of the sod? I don't know why it's not showing. It corroborated, but there is a nice sodded area where the concrete pad existed, but the picture isn't coming up.
I saw it earlier.
Yeah, I saw
Oh,
that earlier.
great.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll have a combined 10 minutes for the applicant to make an opening presentation, public comment from anyone wishing to speak in favor, and a closing statement from the applicant. There will also be 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Since you're already up here, can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Certainly. Good evening to the board. My name's Craig Melrose. My wife, Christy Melrose. We're the current residents at 835 Fox Hollow Run.
Just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your project.
Yeah, certainly. I'll give a background and then certainly try to answer the questions that the board's asking. As Michael mentioned, we're currently selling the home. Pending positive approval to the variance this evening, we'll close on Thursday of this week. The new survey was done at the purchase or the going under contract of the home. That's when we realized that it was not correct. It surprised us. The pool house and the pool were built in 2015. The original house was built in 2007, 2008. We moved in March of 2008. The economy, so we waited to do the pool until times were better. As Michael shared, the plans that we submitted showed the pool house in the correct location because everything's a brand new construction build. All we needed to know was to move it 2 feet and 2 feet or 2 feet and 8 feet, and we would have been compliant. We didn't realize that this mistake had been made during construction for the last 10 years until the new survey was done. Unfortunately, there was an error. We did receive permitting back at that point in time in 2015, obviously submitted for permits. The new stipulation to do a foundation survey would have caught this, and we could have corrected it and changed it. Would have been more than happy to do that. Proof that we'd have been more than happy to do that is when the new survey was done, we found that there was a permeability issue with the 2 additional parking spaces on the driveway that we added when we did the pool. Took it upon ourselves to go ahead and remove that concrete, sod that, just in goodwill, good faith, showing that, we want to make the home correct. The issue at the pool house would be the lot falls about 40 feet from rear to front to street. We carved out of that intentionally. So the pool house is below grade on the rear and on half of the side. We then, at 10 years ago, put in 10 and 12-foot trees that are now 25, 30 feet tall. So not only is there an earthen berm hiding the structure, there's mature trees hiding the structure. To go in and modify the structure at this point, we would have to tear out all of those trees, disconnect all of the pool equipment, potentially modify the pool structure because there's no way to access that side of the yard anymore unless we were to come in through the neighbor's yard. So lots of destruction, lots of loss of tree canopy, maybe more than the pool in the backyard are worth to try to modify the pool house. Let's see here. The support letter from the one neighbor, the rear neighbor, that's been an abandoned home since we moved into the home in 2008. We've not seen that individual. We left something in their mailbox around this process tonight. We've still not heard from them. We've never seen them in the 16 years that we've owned the home. They do have a couple of dilapidated outbuildings, an RV, et cetera. The neighborhood homeowner association asked if we would do additional screening across the back of the property to hide that from the entire neighborhood, in addition for our own benefit, as well as if that land were ever to sell and somebody were to build on it, there's already built-in screening for them as well as for us. And so we were trying to take that into consideration in 2015. Basically requesting variances to bring the home into the correct specification for ourselves as well as for the new homeowners and fix the mistake of the past. More than happy to go through the 4 considerations if that's helpful. I don't know if that's helpful or necessary.
I think we're good. You did an
Okay.
excellent job of outlining that in your letter of appeal.
Sure.
So I want to commend you for that because very straightforward. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant at all?
I don't.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Michael, do we have anyone wishing to speak in support
We do not.
and opposition?
We do not.
We don't. Mr. Melrose, if you'd like to make any closing remarks, you're welcome to do so. That's not necessary. We have about just under 7 minutes left. Any additional questions?
I'd like to get 7 minutes back to the board.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff before I close the public portion?
None for me.
I'll close the public portion for V24-11835 Follow Hawks. Yeah, Fox Hollow. Let me get it right. It's getting late. To approve the variance with one condition, per the survey from Busby and Poss Landscaping Survey Company received on May 24th, 2024 by the Community Development Department.
Second.
Got a motion by Hodge and a second by Zach to approve B24-11835 Fox Hollow Run. Since I made the motion, I'll go first. I like the letter that we received from the applicant. It was very detailed. The applicant took additional steps to address the 25, being over the 25% proactively in order to minimize any need for variances. And on top of that, I think we as a board, when we're reviewing these, and we have that condition on there for a foundation survey before they go vertical on anything that's close, helps address this from happening in the future. And I feel it meets all four of the criteria.
Agreed.
I agree.
Any other discussion? Let's call for a vote on V24-11835 Fox Hollow Run with one condition. Per the survey from Busby and Poss Landscaping Company, Land Surveying Company, received on May 24th, 2024 by the Community Development Department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Yep. Good luck on the sale of your house. Hope it goes well.
Is that the way it works?
Cheers, guys.
Item 7 on this evening's agenda is consideration of appeals of secondary variances.
None?
8 is old business,
Also none?
and 9 is new business.
None.
One item, I believe we've got a signage variance for the next meeting. Can we circulate the conditions and requirements to take into account around the signage, that we have time as a board to review it ahead of time?
Yeah, I can do
And then
that.
if we have any follow-up questions, we'll reach out to staff.
Absolutely. Like, so if the
Sign criteria?
Yeah. I believe there's a separate,
yeah, there is a separate criteria.
Yeah.
That doesn't follow the 4 hardship. Yeah, I can send that out like a few weeks before the staff report goes out, or house.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Just in case anyone wants to look at it
Or I
ahead of
get to
time
do it
before it comes in.
Tomorrow
and they have
morning, so
questions.
it's fresh on everyone's mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Isn't it like 25 feet or something like that? You and I had this discussion before, I believe. I can't remember how it came up. I think. Maybe I'm making that up in my head.
For a ground sign?
Yeah. We talked about signage once before. Anyway,
It might have been during
I
the
digress.
training.
maybe that was what it was.
Yeah, it was
We
probably
probably
during
get
training.
one
Yeah.
signage variance request probably every couple years. It's not very often. So it's not in front of us. I just want to make sure everyone had a chance to review it ahead of time.
Yeah, I'll send that tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll try to get the packets out sooner if I can, because it's a first time I had a sign variance since I've been here. Sounds good.
Item 10,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
get a motion from Adam to adjourn, second from Zach.